Buenas and half a day, everyone. Half a tatamano how? Thank you. So welcome and thank you for being here this afternoon. And those who are watching, people of Guam, half a day. This public hearing by the Committee on Child Welfare, Youth Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women's Affairs, Disability Services, the Arts, Culture, Historic Preservation, and Agatna Restoration is hereby called to order. Today is Thursday, October 9, 2025, and the time is exactly 2 p.m. So for the record and in accordance to open government law, notices for this hearing were sent on Thursday, October 2, 2025, and again on Tuesday, October 7, 2025. In addition, this hearing was noticed at the Guam Legislature website and the Guam Public Notice website. I would like to welcome my colleagues who are joining me this afternoon. My Vice Chair, Vice Speaker Ada, thank you for being here, sir. And of course, Senator Therese Senator Therese Terlahi, thank you, ma'am, for being here. On the agenda this afternoon is the appointment of Saina, Zina, Ruiz to the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board as a member and the board's CHamoru culture representative. Before we proceed with this hearing, I would like to reiterate some general rules of conduct for those in attendance. Rules of engagement are, when you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and state your name and title for the record-keeping purposes. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee and senators that are present. Questions and testimony shall be confirmed or confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal infringement as to the character or motive of any senator or any individuals testifying is not permitted. Individuals who fail to abide by these rules will be restricted from the participating and will be escorted and removed from the room. Before we begin with the testimonies, I would like to give my opening remarks as a committee chairperson. As we know that the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board plays a crucial and critical role in safeguarding our island's rich heritage. Comprising 5 dedicated members and their alternates, this board is vital in overseeing historic preservation efforts throughout Guam. It is tasked with entering properties into the Guam Register of Historic Places, evaluating nominations to the National Register of Historic Places, and reviewing our comprehensive preservation plans. Furthermore, it actively supports the Guam Preservation Trust Fund and fulfills the responsibilities of the State Historic Review Board as established under the Federal National Historic Preservation Act. Through these efforts, the board helps ensure that our history is preserved for future generations. Their work not only protects our cultural sites, but also foster a greater appreciation of our heritage in our community. At this time, I would like to call upon the individuals who signed up to testify to please come forward and join us in the panel. And I'd like to recognize the presence of another colleague of mine, Senator Vince Borja. Thank you for being here, Senator. We'd like to begin with the testimonies of individuals who would like to render their support or any testimonies for the appointee. Mr. Joe, would you like to start?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you, sir. You're recognized, sir.
Yes, my name is Joe Kinata, the Chief Program Officer for the Guam Preservation Trust. Senators, thank you for being here. And thank you for hearing Zina. It's really much needed for the Guam Preservation Trust as well as the review board surely needs a quorum. I would like to say that on behalf of the Guam Preservation Trust, Board of Directors, and staff, I write to express our support for Ms. Zina S.N. Ruiz to serve as the CHamoru Cultural Primary on the Board of Directors for the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board. Zina is no stranger to historic preservation in Guam. She is part of many organizations, many cultural organizations in Guam, and is a valuable resource to many for the continued preservation of our CHamoru way of life. Additionally, she has represented Guam as a member of Guam's delegation for the Festival of the Pacific Arts and Culture in Guam and Hawaii. Working with the current board of the GPT, Zina remains familiar with what is needed for the preservation of our CHamoru culture and what steps are necessary to ensure that historic preservation remains a priority of our community. I am happy that Zina has renewed the public call to continue serving our people as a member of the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board, and I am confident that she will work well with our office to further the mission of the Guam Preservation Trust to ensure that historic and cultural resources remain protected. As you are well aware, board members of the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board in turn become the board of directors for the Guam Preservation Trust, and a quorum for our board allows for better management of our work to advance preservation in Guam. It is in this regard that I once again extend GPT's support for Ms. Zina Ruiz to the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board. Thank you, Situs Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Cho. Are there any other individuals who would like to offer testimony before I call Saina Zina? I'm going to go ahead and Zina Ruiz, you are recognized.
Buenas and half a day, Senora. I wrote something, so if I may, I'd like to read it out. Hafade todos, guahu si Zina Barbas Nicholas Ruiz, Gaigido Guini sahak recommenda imagahaga Guam, na para by setbi I comunidad, Guini ge Guam Historic Preservation Review Board. Hafade todos, I am Zina Barbas Nicholas Ruiz. I appear before you as a nominee by Imagahaga Guam to serve as director on the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board. As a CHamoru woman who represents Guam and her people in regional and international gatherings, it is important that I share knowledge and experiences in spaces where the CHamoru people are represented, most especially here on our island. In my previous term, the island was coming out of pandemic lockdown. Presently, the government implements initiatives to better our community and better the lives of our people, of its people. The mission of the Guam Preservation Trust is to preserve and to protect Guam's historic sites, culture, and perspectives for the benefit of our island and our future. I believe that the preservation of our historic sites and spaces play an important part in those initiatives. With your approval to serve on this board, I hope to contribute to those initiatives. Sana Maasi, Guahutalu, Zina Barbas, Nicholas Ruiz. Situs Masi.
Situs Masi, Saina, Zina. Thank you for both your testimonies. Before I proceed with inviting my colleagues here to, if they have any remarks or questions. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Mayor of Jotnya, Mayor Brian Terlahi. Thank you for coming over here to render your support. I'd like to pass the microphone to and recognize our Vice Speaker Tony Ada, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Saina Ruiz, for coming down and accepting actually the appointment of Imagahagan Guahan to the board. I think that having Jill by your side to give testimony on this appointment, but most especially, you know, that's a strong, powerful testimony that he's rendering and providing for you to sit on the board. But just your work in the community. I've seen many events, and it always it warms my heart when the passion that you have and you express during the chants, and just everything about you just speaks preservation. And I know that you would do extremely well and good for the board. And I thank you for accepting the nomination. And I rarely say this out in public hearings, but I support your testimony. I support your appointment, and I look forward to voting in the affirmative for your appointment to the board. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. And I'd like to recognize Senator Ruiz Terlahi.
So just Masi, Madam Chair, and thank you for the testimony. And of course, Zina, for your willingness to serve on this board again. Can you just remind us how many years you've served already on this board?
It was one term, which was 4 years.
4 years. I know these terms are quite long. You'll be again 4 years, I think, from the date of confirmation. And then, so I have no issues with your service on the board. I just want to ask you if we can get your commitment to helping us with certain things. So, as you know, the chair had a oversight hearing regarding the Historic Preservation Office. There's been audits, and there's been some turmoil in regards to authority of the Historic Preservation Office, what laws they are following versus rules and regs versus executive orders. And this has created, I think, opportunity or less opportunity for the Historic Preservation Officer to actually control what happens, for example, to burial sites and other historic properties. So we need to resolve this. And I think one of the things that you're being nominated to is the Historic Review Board, Historic Preservation Review Board. This is a federal entity, authorized entity for Guam under the federal statutes for historic preservation, also under our local statutes. It's supposed to serve as, apparently this review board hasn't met for a couple years, but I'd like your help to change that. I think it's important for a number of reasons. The review board, you're really the one who is supposed to be approving their recommendations to the Guam Register of Historic Places, evaluating the nominations to that Register of Historic Places, reviewing the Guam Survey of the Guam Historic Properties, review the content of the Comprehensive Preservation Plan. And my understanding is that Guam Preservation Trust has a preservation plan, but the Preservation Office, I couldn't find one. It's only a survey of something, and I think you need to get to the bottom of that. I think you need to decide whether we have two plans, whether we have one plan, whether they merge, and really, can you swear for this plan? Is this what we really want for Guam? because our plan is going to dictate where the priorities are, what they spend their time on. It's going to dictate, you know, and this is a very critical time for Guam, right? For historic preservation. If we lose it now, we lose it. So I would like your eyes on that and your advocacy on that as well. The board members also serve as board of directors for the Preservation Trust Fund. And then, of course, according to the federal statute, the review board for the National Historic Preservation Act. But the review board also is the appeals board if there's a contractor, for example, or someone applying for a permit at the Historic Preservation Office, and they do not agree with either being denied or what they're being required to do as a condition of the permit. Those, I think, according to the statute, if I'm reading it right, says this is for building permits, grading permits, clearing permits, foundation permits, leases and renewals of government land, application for surplus federal real estate, government infrastructure improvement projects, government construction, including clearing and grading. So they have to get approval from the State Historic Preservation Office. But according to 76511, he can resolve problems through agreement or mitigation. Such resolution may include, but need not be limited to, project redesign, relocation, curation, and display of cultural resources, and land dedication to the Guam Preservation Trust. The Guam Historic Preservation Review Board shall develop the criteria for resolution of any controversial finding in accordance with the administrative adjudication law. So we're going to have to use this administrative adjudication law to come up with a process that's very clear for everybody who's applying, so they will be treated fairly, but that we will also be able to enforce our protections. And so I really need your help in serving on the board to pay more attention on this Preservation Review Board duties and to insist that they have a meeting. According to their office, they have not had a meeting because of lack of quorum, which doesn't make sense because when there's quorum for Preservation Trust Board, they're the exact same people. Maybe they can coordinate their meetings to be on the same day. I don't know, but if you can help, please. I think you need to meet. I think you need to review what's going on. I think you need to make sure that we are following the priorities that you've been put on this board because of that. You know what priorities we need. I don't want to see any more excuses for removal of burials or things like that. That's my personal opinion. So you need to come to terms with those things. So it's not a matter of just the trust, you know, and the money there and able to support projects that we really need, but it's really this regulatory and this enforcement duties that I'd really like your help with. So I really thank you again for wanting to serve on this board, and I hope that you can. And if you have any questions, please contact me or the chair. I'm sure we'll be able to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Committee Member Senator Teresa Lai. I'm gonna encourage Saina Ruiz to please respond.
Senhora Teresa, se Deus ni todo do eno I fenaisend and todo I requisi ni on pepega hudun gini pagani enetnan utungo na tisina na unukuha na tauto po togui tori teto. Nisisita todo perewa zahamdu guini guahatetu pues nisita na ta enetnon ofan akumprendi da ta fan actungo da guahalai ni nisita ma tatidi kosaki sofu monitoro ikarera. Thank you for the lined item request and concerns. I appreciate that those are placed now in this gathering. I realize that being a part of the board, you cannot move unless we all work together. And so that is something that is a reality in in our life here. You know, it's what happens when you, as senators, come together, and also in spaces where groups are needed, community concern. It's not only one person that can move, right? And so I also come to appreciate the laws that are put in place and the guidances that are put forth. And I recognize the challenges that have happened, that this organization has come through. When it comes to the CHamoru culture, it is important that we take care from birth until death, right? And so being a part of this organization has helped to really improve my education when it comes to iconic and historic places and values, even down to burial grounds, because those are our ancestors. And so, Senadora, I am committed to assisting and helping in those concerns. And when we meet as a board, then those will be the priorities. Sidusmasi.
Sidusmasi.
Sidusmasi for your answer, Saina. Mr. Joe, would you like to add on something? Do you have remarks?
Well, again, the State Historic Preservation Office, I wish was here to answer your questions. But what I can say is that the Guam Preservation Trust really always come forward to work with the SHPO's office and the community. As Zina would say, that we can't do it ourselves. We need everyone to come together to do it. And thank you, Senator Chalahi, for putting that in perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Kanata. At this point, I'd like to recognize Senator Vince Borja.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Zina, for like all our nominees that come in here. Thank you for accepting the call to serve on this trust. I don't necessarily have any questions, but before I came in and I was looking at the agenda for today, I saw your name. I didn't necessarily at that time didn't really put a name to a face and who you were, but when I walked in and I saw you, I was like, oh, I see her at all the blessings and all the culture performances, and even as Vice Speaker mentioned, it's always heartwarming. I was in the military and was gone for a little bit, but to come home and just how and I did cultural dancing when I was a kid under Anne-Marie Sablon. So it's a little bit the culture, the preservation of our culture through dance and music and the chants that you guys do today. I could recognize all you guys' face because it's something that really identifies, even across the United States and through Europe, that some of you guys have done, and in Hawaii. The work that you guys do definitely identifies, Guam and the Chamorro people. So I thank you for that as well. And, again, thank you for accepting this. I have no doubt through the work that you do with cultural preservation and language preservation that you'll do what's right for the people of Guam and for our people. So thank you. And I support your nomination, and we look forward to confirming you in the next session on the next session. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Borja. Saina, Zina, would you like to say something? Yes?
Maybe just a little bit in regards to how you recognize culture in that sense, And so participating at the trust and these initiatives, I've also traveled into other islands, and I've seen that historic places, iconic images, they help to support, they help to educate, and they help for people to keep the image of the people of the land. And so this building is a testament to that. and the heritage of the Chamorro people. As a child from Minarahan, I would come here for field trips, you know, and it's in those days it's very far for us to come here for a field trip. I'm older now, and so I love to drive by and educate those in the car with me of the value of this building. You know, a couple of months ago, I was invited, or I was included in what's happening down at Homate at the FQ Sanchez school, and it was a beautiful experience to see the appreciation of the land, of how the wind blows through the buildings, and how the building itself is placed so that it takes advantage of the environment of where it was placed. And that's a lot of, megay na tiningo, it's a lot of knowledge in that. And sometimes in our day and age, we're very rushed. We're very hurriedly to move on because we're hot or whatever the thing is. And I'll touch back with, for example, our burial grounds. You know, how do we know who is buried there if there is no acknowledgement? You know, how do we know that our ancestors once walked there if there's nothing there that is placed for the human eye to see, to hear, to feel? It's a beautiful thing when a child is surrounded by those experiences or those knowledges and those resources. And so thank you for expressing that about that passion that drives me. But it's not hard when you're Chamorro, or it's not hard when you have an indigenous background that you know, that is of you. You appreciate other cultures, you appreciate other places, but more so, it should drive you to take care of what is yours. And that's where I come from. You know, many times I say, you can take the girl out of the village, but you can't take the village out of the girl. So I lived in Malolo, with the outskirts of Sengtung Inalahan, historic Inalahan, and I moved to Jigo. It's a lot of mileage for me to go there and back. I appreciate the drive. I appreciate the environment, you know, and so I understand what you mean when you come home, because I appreciate and I love the place that I live in Sengtung Jigo, the municipality of Jigo. But as soon as I cross the bridge in Zonya, I'm almost home. And so that's something that I always want to share with the people that are around me. And so there are two experiences that are shared now. And so I thank you for that, just as well as Senator Ruiz, thank you for that also. Sudus Masi.
Thank you, Saina. At this point, I'm going to ask my colleagues if there are other remarks or questions or comments prior to my comment. So, Saina, I don't really have a lot of questions. Your work is a testimony to who you are. And I think the fact that you were asked, or your reappointment, speaks volume of the history of what you have contributed to our community. And you have the trust of the Magahaga, you have the people's trust, and obviously you have Mr. Joe Kanata right next to you. Who better would give a testimony for somebody, but obviously the director. So I truly appreciate your testimony as well. I wanted to say that it's really important from your perspective, it's really important that there's always a reminder for us around the island that we put in place for the future generation. And you're correct when you mention that as a child, the way they learn is really what they see around their community, not just from the people that raises them, but you know history from the things that you see around you. So if you want it alive, you want to keep on stressing it, pushing it, pounding it. So I truly appreciate all the work that you've done for our community, and I look forward to the continuance of all that you've done as side by side, Mr. Joe, of course, and I look forward to your confirmation. So thank you so much to your testimonies, and for everyone that actually came here to the People's House to support Saina, Zina, Ruiz. And so Saina, Zina, Ruiz, as a member of CHamoru Culture, representative for the Guam Historic Preservation Review Board for the term of 4 years. So we all look forward to that. Thank you to each and every one of you who have provided remarks, comments, stories, testimonies. And I'd like to thank my colleagues, Sidus Masi, for being here and for joining me today. We have heard valuable insights about Saina Ruiz's qualifications and dedication to preserving our island's rich heritage, and it is clear that her experience will be a great asset to the board's important work. As we move forward, I encourage everyone to continue to render your support in historic preservation and to engage with the board as it fulfills its mission. The committee will continue to receive for 7 calendar days testimonies after this hearing. Please submit your testimony to the Guam Legislature mailroom or via email at Office of Senator Shelly Calvo at guamlegislature.gov. The current time right now is 2:32 p.m. and this public hearing is now adjourned. Undang kalun si Duos Masi.
Hamza Masi,